Genesis is really finding its groove in the UK, and on top of a flurry of saloon and SUV models, it is now introducing this, the G70 shooting brake. Now it's a car that the firm says has been designed specifically for European customers, but can it tempt buyers in the UK away from more traditional premium rivals? That's what we've come to Lisbon to find out. The G70 shooting brake follows on Genesis's attitude towards interiors in that it's got a really comfortable and upmarket feel overall. We've got some really nice stitched leather pieces and these aluminium trim which help to lighten the overall feel of the cabin. Now ahead of us we've got a multifunction steering wheel and these special 3D dials which adjust to follow your eyes. They can also be changed to show different readouts depending on which driving mode you select. They're really cool. And then in the middle, we've got a large central infotainment system which manages all your media and navigation functions, and that is actually really intuitive and easy to use. So overall, it's a really nice package and one that you can get up to speed with very quickly. The level of quality that you get in the front half of the cabin is continued to the rear. We've got really nice quilted seats, and we've got 2 USB charging points in the middle for your devices. However, the real issue here is space. The front seat, the driver's seat, is in my position, and I'm just under 6 foot. And I haven't really got very much room for my knees, and most importantly I haven't got any room for my feet because the seat in its lowest position doesn't give you the space underneath to get your shoes and feet underneath. Surprisingly, with its sleek sloping roofline, headroom isn't an issue. There's tons of it. But yes, if you're carrying taller passengers more frequently, then you may want to look elsewhere. For kids, this is going to be fine, but for everyone else, it just feels a little bit too tight. Accessing the shooting brake's boot is easy enough. There's a button underneath the rear wiper. And once it's open, that gives you access to 465 litres. The load lip is quite high, and obviously this aperture is quite narrow, so loading larger items might be a little bit difficult. But you can lower the rear seats, and that opens volume up to 1,535 litres. That's a little bit down on rivals, but it's still a usable space, and you have these handy cargo nets to stop certain smaller items from rolling around too. So what have we got to play with the G70 shooting brake? Well, there's the option of either a 2.2 litre turbocharged diesel engine or a 2 litre petrol engine. In terms of power outputs, you get 197 brake horsepower in the former and 194 brake horsepower in the latter. So there's not a lot in terms of power outputs between them. Both send power to the rear wheels via an 8-speed automatic transmission. The car that we're in today is the petrol, and it actually feels pretty perky, to be honest with you. You've got different modes to roll through depending on the type of road that you're on, but realistically you can keep it in its standard setting and it deals with the job at hand pleasantly enough. There's good response, there's good throttle response. The transmission itself shifts really smoothly, and though you can take control via the steering wheel mounted paddles, more often than not you just leave it to its own devices and it shifts really pleasantly. The car overall feels actually quite light. The steering is light too, and that gives it a sense of agility, and actually on twisty roads like the ones we're on today, this G70 feels really pleasant to pitch through the bends and corners. The visibility overall is pretty decent. Forward, you've got these slim pillars, which means that your forward view isn't too affected. However, at the back, that rear sloping tailgate does mean that you've got a slightly more letterbox style rear opening. It's not too bad though. Over the shoulder, you're restricted quite a bit by quite thick pillars, so that is an area that you have to watch out for. But fortunately, the G70 comes with a vast array of safety assistance systems, including a blind spot monitoring camera, which means that whenever you indicate, it relays the image of the blind spot into your display, and that's really, really useful. That's a system that we can easily see being applied to lots of cars, and it's one you get really used to actually. In terms of performance, this 2 litre petrol will do 0 to 60 in just about 9 seconds. So it's a little bit slower and off the pace compared with rivals, but actually it doesn't feel too slow and it doesn't feel underpowered for the job that it needs to do. It just feels like a resoundingly well put together product. You could say to Genesis that since it's relatively new to the market, you could almost allow it some grievances in terms of a car that feels maybe not quite that well put together. But this car feels nice and solid, it feels refined. The ride quality isn't too bad, but then we are on very smooth roads. I tried to search out some worse roads earlier, and it seems that Portugal has been doing awfully well at resurfacing them. We drove the standard G70 back in the UK and found the low-speed ride to be a little bit jarring, so I'd expect the same to be for this G70 shooting brake. It's this light steering that will not only help on tight and twisty roads like these ones, but also around town where the G70 will be a little bit easier for slow speed manoeuvres and for parking. In truth, we'd quite like to see the V6 petrol engine that's fitted to the Stinger, and that's a car that the G70 shares as much of its underpinnings with, fitted to this car. I think that could be a real cult classic, but sadly there are no such plans to make a G70 with a V6 engine in it. I think with the chassis that it has, it could deal with the power, certainly. But the real question is, how does this car compare to vehicles like the BMW 3 Series or Mercedes C-Class? Well, it doesn't quite have that premium finish to the ride or the steering. Certainly, it's not terrible. It's not a car that you'll struggle to drive every day, and it's not a car that you're going to get annoyed with taking down nice twisty roads or along long stretches of motorway. It just lacks that final level finesse that you get in this premium segment. But you do have to remember that this car does undercut those rivals when it comes to overall finish, in terms of overall standard of equipment. Would you choose this car over a BMW 3 Series or over a C-Class? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And since you're here, please remember to like the video if you have enjoyed it, and please subscribe to the motors.co.uk YouTube channel for more reviews on cars like the G70 shooting brake. The G70 shooting brake really feels like an example of Genesis starting to find its feet. It's easily the most striking car in its segment, and though it might be lacking somewhat in rear seat practicality, it counters with a great attention to detail and plenty of standard equipment. Given that prices start from just over £35,000, it also offers really good value for money. So if you are considering a new premium estate car, then the G70 shooting brake is well worth looking at.